This video is on how to clean the Smith Wesson M&P M2.0. This is the 45 compact version, but this will apply to the other versions as well. I'll leave links to all the tools and supplies that you'll need to clean it, either as pop-ups in the video itself or in the video description below. There's two ways to field strip this gun, the easy way and the slightly more complicated way. I'll show you the easy way first. Always start out with a clear and empty weapon, meaning no ammunition. Keep it pointed in a safe direction and keep your finger off the trigger. Locate the magazine release button. Drop the magazine. And I'm going to double check the chamber to make sure it's clear. To do that, locate the slide stop lever. Push upward on that as you're pulling the slide to its rearmost position. When the slide's all the way back, you'll feel the slide stop lever lock into place. Locate the takedown lever. Turn the takedown lever to the 6 o'clock position. Press the slide stop lever downward as you guide the slide home. Now you'll need to pull the trigger to release the slide. Now you can remove the slide from the frame. Now press on the recoil spring assembly from chamber end to muzzle end and you can pull it out. Now grab onto the barrel and remove it from the slide. And that's as far as you need to go for a basic field strip. So that's what I would call the easier way. Now I'll show you the other way. The first few steps is exactly the same as the first part of the video. Press the magazine release button, remove the magazine, make sure the chamber is clear, lock the slide back in place using the slide stop lever, rotate the takedown lever to 6 o'clock position, and here's where it's different. You see this yellow piece right here? That's the sear release lever. Right now it's in the up position. We're going to put it in the down position. I'm going to put this in slow motion as I move the sear release lever to the down position, and I'm just using a brass punch to move it. Once the sear release lever looks like this, you can then remove the slide without pulling the trigger. Just remember to put the sear release lever back into the up position before you reassemble. Now press down on the slide stop lever, release the slide, and continue pulling it off the frame. Now take out the recoil spring assembly, the barrel, and now you're field stripped and you're ready to clean. You don't have to clean these parts in any particular order, but today I'm going to start with the slide. Add CLP to the nylon brush and start scrubbing all outer surfaces. Before you start scrubbing the inside of the slide, be sure not to leak CLP down into the firing pin channel. And also try to avoid leaking CLP down into the breech face. That's where the firing pin comes out of. If you get too much CLP or oil down in there, it could slow down the firing pin over time. If you're worried that may happen, just clean with the muzzle end facing downward when you clean that area. Use the smaller end of the nylon brush to get in between the rails and the harder to reach areas. The smaller end of the brush also helps with getting behind the extractor. That's that little hook piece that's right next to the breech face. Once I'm done loosening up all the dirt with a nylon brush, I'm going to add CLP to a clean cotton swab and go through it in fine detail. The first few cotton swabs will come out dirty. Just continue running fresh cotton swabs through it until they start to come out clean. Now wipe off any excess CLP. You'll see some orange stuff on my rag. That's not rust. That's orange paint that was on the end of the recoil spring that was near the muzzle end. I'm just wiping that off. Once I'm done wiping off the excess CLP, I'm going to add a dedicated lubricant, also known as gun oil, to a clean cotton swab and add a medium coat of lube to the rails and a light coat of lube to anything that shows signs of metal on metal wear. Yes, you can get away with just using CLP because it is cleaner, lubricant, and protectant, but I prefer taking the extra step of adding gun oil to the high friction areas. I'm going to clean the frame next, add CLP to the nylon brush, and start scrubbing all surfaces inside and out. And yes, you do need to clean the grip area unless you're okay with getting lead contaminants all over your hand every time you pick up your gun. But we're not going to leave the outside of the frame wet or slippery. The grip area is going to be completely dry when we're done. Pay particular attention to the rail areas. You want to make sure those are completely clean so that the slide operates smoothly. Now wipe off the excess CLP. The easiest way to remove the CLP from the grip is just wrap the rag around it and squeeze. Now add CLP to a clean cotton swab and go through it in fine detail. Now I'm going to add gun oil to a clean cotton swab and I'll show you the points to lube. There are 8 lubrication points where a single drop of high quality firearms lubricant should be applied. This will ensure proper lubrication. Care should be taken not to over lubricate. Excess lubricant can collect quantities of unburned powder and carbon residue, which could interfere with proper functioning of the pistol. And that was taken straight from the Smith Wesson owner's manual. So I'm just going to go through and lubricate these areas. Just use the pause and rewind button if you need to see those lubrication points again. And here you can see that the grip area is completely clean and completely dry. Let's start on the barrel. Add CLP to the nylon brush and start scrubbing. Be sure to clean the feed ramp really well. You want to make sure that's totally clean so that ammunition can feed smoothly into the chamber. Now add the .45 caliber bronze bore brush to the cleaning rod. Add a little CLP to the brush. I'm only going to push this bore brush through in one direction, from chamber end to muzzle end, because it doesn't make any sense at all to push the dirt out and pull it right back in. It's kind of like sweeping the floor. You don't just sweep back and forth because you'll spread dust everywhere. You sweep in one general direction, into a dustpan or out the door. So I push the bore brush through, chamber end to muzzle end. When it comes out of the muzzle end, I unscrew the bronze bore brush, or you can use nylon, but I prefer bronze. By the way, that's where it should say .45 caliber. See the 4.5 on there? Anyway, I unscrew the brush, pull the clean rod out, screw the brush back on, and repeat the process. There's really no magic number on how many times you need to do this. It really depends on how much you've been shooting. In this case, I'm just going to push it through a few times and move on. And by the way, as you're pushing the rod through, make sure you hold it by the handle. The handle is going to allow the rod to spin freely. You want it to spin freely so that the bore bristles can spin freely within the rifling and you get a better clean that way. Now attach the brass jag. Add a little CLP to a cleaning patch. Wrap it around the jag. And kind of like the bore brush, we're only doing this in one direction, chamber end to muzzle end. You'll see that the first few patches come out dirty. Just keep pushing clean patches through until they start to come out clean. It took a few patches, but that's looking pretty clean. Now for the bore snake. Make sure you're using the correct bore snake. It should say 45 right there on the brass weight. Just take the weight, drop it in through the chamber, and pull it out the muzzle end. Do this a couple of times and you should be good. It's kind of hard to show this on camera, but this is exactly why I use a bore snake. That bore is spotless. There's not even a speck of lint or dust inside. It looks like black glass and it looks way better than it ever came from the factory. Here's another close-up view of the lubrication points of the barrel. It's showing an arrow pointing to the chamber right here, or the top of the chamber. It's also pointing to the muzzle end of the barrel. I'm going to add a medium coat of lube to those areas, but I'm also going to add a light coat of lube to the entire piece. I'll add a couple of drops of oil to the top of the chamber, which is also called the hood, and a little bit to the barrel, and I'm going to smooth it out with a cotton swab. Now clean the recoil spring assembly. Add CLP to the nylon brush and scrub in between the coils. Now wipe off the excess CLP, and that's about it for the recoil spring. You don't need to disassemble the magazine every time you clean unless you dropped it in dirt, mud, sand, or something like that. Today I'm just going to give it a basic clean and wipe down. Just go very light on the CLP. You don't want to leak anything down into the follower or into the cutouts on the sides of the magazine or the witness holes on the back of the magazine. The witness holes are those holes that show the round count. Time to reassemble. Reinsert the barrel. Just make sure you got the correct lockup. Should look just like that. Insert the recoil spring, the colored end towards the muzzle end, and the flat metal piece of the recoil spring goes on the barrel lug. Just compress it from chamber into muzzle end. Make sure it's perfectly centered. If it's not centered, you're going to have trouble putting the slide back on. It should look just like that. Now, if you decided to disassemble this using the sear release, the second method I showed you at the beginning of the video, you need to remember to press the sear release lever back to the up position. That's the yellow piece right there. See, that's the down position. That's the down position we use to take the slide off, but it needs to be in the up position. So I'm going to raise it back up before I put the slide back on. If you just pulled the trigger instead of messing with a sear release lever, then you don't need to worry about this, unless you accidentally moved it while you're cleaning. So if you're having trouble putting the slide back on, it's either because the recoil spring is not centered or the sear release lever is down. So once you confirm that the sear release lever is in the up position, line up the rails on the slide with the rails on the frame, pull the slide back to this position, push up on the slide stop lever. As you're pushing up, pull the slide to its rearmost position and you'll feel the slide stop lock into place. Now move the takedown lever back to the original position. Press the slide stop lever down. Guide the slide back into place. Now let's do a function check. To do that, pull the trigger, but don't let it go. Keep holding the trigger. Work the slide. Now release the trigger. You should hear and feel it reset. Pull the trigger again. If you hear it click, you're good. Now let's make sure it locks back on an empty magazine. Insert an empty magazine. When you pull the slide back, it should lock back on its own without using the slide stop lever. If it does, you're good. If you found this video helpful, let me know in the comments. Give it a like and subscribe to my channel.